Welcome to the 2010 Fusion Podcast, presented to you by the Oregon Ministry Network. Fusion took place November 4th through 6th at People's Church in Salem. The following workshop, entitled Turtle on a Fencepost, was led by Heidi Zwiefel.
He said, whenever she graduates, you hire her. And I didn't know that story until I actually was hired there. And it's so divine how God works, guys, because my resume was a yellow legal pad with my first name, my experience, what I majored in, because I was traveling with the Northwest College team as a senior in high school, and I already made plans to go travel in a singing group. I love to sing. And so I thought, my plans are already made. So when this person called me and said, we need an assistant music director, I'm like, what is that? I mean, there's assistants in music directing? How big is this church? I'm thinking, I had an assistant. So I'm thinking, wow. I said, do you realize I'm not a music major? It's okay. It's all right. My pastor told me 4 years ago, Kenton Lee, when you graduated, we wanted to hire you. I thought, wow, something I did other than singing, must have clicked with the pastor. My sole job for 5 years was to develop youth choirs and children's choirs. My full-time job.
I need you.
My full-time job. And I was not a music major. I was very clear at that. I said, I don't even have a resume. It's okay. Just do me the justice that way I can give it to my pastor and tell him that you did it. I said, okay. And this is the time where I met Mark, where we feasted our eyes upon another and said, oh, we know we're going to get married and stuff. He was in Wyoming, and I was, getting ready to travel, and I get this call from Kenton Lee over at Tacoma Life Center. And I'm thinking, I'm not even qualified for this. And I'll never forget who at the time, Mark was my boyfriend, living long distance apart, because I was traveling, mind you. I'll never forget what he told me. And this has always stuck to me. And I use this for anybody who's in children's ministry, anybody who's in ministry in general. God never calls the qualified. He never does. You know it, but he qualifies those he calls. And I thought, oh, that is so good. I'm not qualified to do anything when it comes to kids or whatnot. And so I thought, man, God, I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. And I've done that in our marriage, 14 years in marriage together now. And it's one of the funnest things. If we, by the age they turn to 13, can leave an imprint on their lives, and a dynamic one, not just one you can barely see, but the one where the handprint is in that cement and you have the signature and everything by it, imagine the lives that these children will live as they grow up into youth ministries. Okay? Children's ministry does a huge justice, but also a huge injustice for youth ministries. I'm working as a youth pastor now, so I know. And I'm over the executive part of the children's ministry, and we are working together with that children's pastor, because I want to know when those kids turn to 7th grade. I don't get them until they turn to 7th grade. When I get them in 7th grade, man, you've done everything, Tina Martin, to equip these kids into just the next level where God wants to take them. So that's just a brief testimony of where I came from and where I all started. Went from there to Las Vegas, Nevada, where I was a chaplain of a school of about 500 kids. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it, because every day I got to tell kids. Now, you guys probably already know how Christian schools are. Doesn't mean every kid that goes to that Christian school comes from a Christian family. Las Vegas was growing so much in population that the schools were getting really horrible. Public schools were just horrible. So parents who were somewhat affluent, had a little bit more money, even if they didn't have money, they would sacrifice to get their kids into private schools. Well, our school, International Christian Academy, had the whole layout, man. If you bring these kids here, they're going to learn about the Holy Spirit. They're going to learn about speaking in tongues. They're going to learn about Jesus and what he did for us. I mean, we don't just do a chapel service. We go all out. And I was the chaplain, and I was excited about it because I was passionate about kids. So I'd have these kids come, and we separated them by ages. And I'll never forget that by the time I left there to go to Alaska. I was a chaplain there for 4 years. I had parents beyond the kids coming up to me and saying, we're going to miss you, Mrs. Zwiefel, because it was my Super Bowl. Super Bowl every Thursday. And I used every minute I could to get their attention. And the best way I could describe it, people are like, well, how do you do children's ministry? You ever been to a kid's birthday party? Yeah? Imagine children's ministry like a big birthday party. Cake, ice cream, balloons. But the best thing we bring in it is Jesus. It's the Bible. If we do only the balloons and we do only the cake and the ice cream, but we don't bring the biggest gift, the big whammy, which is God, the Bible, Jesus, children's ministry, we're failing our kids. And we're failing our youth ministries. Imagine the biggest, most awesome birthday party. And that's how I always envisioned my chapels. I had parents coming up to me, and I get a little teary-eyed about this because I didn't realize I was touching parents. But we are. And you know that in children's ministry. You know that when you're touching kids, you are touching parents. And I didn't know for 4 years, some parents came up to me that I thought just didn't like me. And I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. I thought they just didn't like the chaplain. Mrs. Zwiefel this, Mrs. Zwiefel that. I'd hear what they'd complain about, and she taught this. And I had no idea that I was speaking into their lives. They'd come to my chapel services. They'd miss their hour of lunch to come. A lot of them did to listen in chapel for 40 minutes. And I thought, God, what an opportunity you brought before me. I'm humbled by it. But that last day, I'll never forget how many parents came up to me. And they were a lot more emotional than the kids, it felt like, hugging me. We're going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. I'm thinking, I'm just the chaplain. No. You're much more than just a children's worker, a children's volunteer, a children's pastor. You change lives, and every minute counts. What Mark and I are doing is Mark's going to talk with the youth pastors about the same topic as I am, but in the youth ministry realm. I'm doing it in the children's. How many here have, well, everybody here has senior pastors, correct, over them. A senior pastor, a senior leader, lead pastor, however they call it, whatever your pastor likes to be called. And in doing that, you've got to realize that you were put there for a purpose. Now, whether you are a volunteer, how many are volunteers? Like you completely volunteer your time to that. Can I just say, my heart goes to you, and I am so thrilled that what you do for free. That's the big thing. You do for free. You give of your time. If you have families, if you have your own family, or even if you're single, you could be doing something else. But you give for free. You do it for free, and you give your time, and it's because you love it. You want to see an impact, and I appreciate that. And anybody here that's children that has a paid position, and you have volunteers, I will tell you, I invest more in my volunteers than I do in my children or in the youth ministry. Because I know when I've had it and I can't do any more, I can call on DJ and Dana Lockwood, who have been youth volunteers for me for the last year and a half, who have 4 kids of their own. I say, DJ, man, take it over. I have to get some rest. Something happened, an emergency happened. He can do it because I've invested that time in leadership, in meetings with him, volunteers in this place. Thank you. I don't know if I can't tell my volunteers enough. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know that they feel the same way, and sometimes they don't know how to say it. Sometimes they forget to say it. But the moment you leave, they're going to hope that they said it a lot more. So thank you so much. Mark and I are going to talk about the best ways to please your senior pastor, because you all have them in here. I have it. I like to call myself a ministry brat. You ever heard of military brats? How many were a military brat growing up in the military? Okay, they like to refer to themselves like that. I'm a military brat. I didn't understand that till years ago. I was like, why do you call yourself a brat? Oh, I understand now. I'm a ministry brat because the moment I graduated from Northwest University, I was put into churches 5,000 or more. Never knew anything other than 5,000 or more. Went from there to Las Vegas, 6,000 people. We went there, and I'm in Alaska. I'm the executive pastor of a church of 140 people. It's really been a transitional shift beyond the weather, okay? People are like, ooh, the weather, no. The weather I can handle. It's this transitional shift of being at these churches that someone had everything to a place that maybe 140 people. How many pastor at a church right here that's under 100, that's around that same attendance? Raise your hand. Okay. So listen, here's the thing. For me, it's been the most trying part of it is realizing I am here to support my pastor. I'm here to support this man who's entrusted me with some 75-year-old Social Security tithe, who believes in this church enough to hire an executive pastor. I'm here to back him up in every way I can. Mark's teaching that about youth ministry. I want to teach that here in the children's sector of it. And I know you're a volunteer in here, but I know you love children's ministry enough that you're there with your children's pastor, helping and aiding in every way you can. You are part of that whole pocket too. Everything you can to support your senior pastor. Well, I don't like my senior pastor. He doesn't believe in our children's ministry. Well, we're going to get to those parts too. First of all, the best way to please your senior pastor is to go above and beyond expectations. Go above and beyond what he expects of you. Now, I've never had a job description. The churches I've been at, they just hired us to do whatever, or the school I was at, I knew I was the chaplain, assistant principal. I knew what my job was. I never had one laid before me. I came to this church in Anchorage, Alaska, and bam, 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 bam. They've got like 5 pages of what they expect an executive, a pastor to do, especially with children's and youth ministry. I thought, whoa, man, that's what I'm supposed to do? I took that, and I've done those things, but I've gone even beyond those things. And if you're sitting in here and you say, I'm just the children's pastor, my area is only children's ministry. You're right. It's probably you volunteer for, you were hired for. But can I tell you what makes somebody extraordinary versus the ordinary? It's the person who's willing to go the extra mile. My husband's a twin, and he's from Tillamook, Oregon. I married the better looking one, by the way. I always tell people that. He's from Tillamook, Oregon, and he has a twin brother. His name is Pat. And Mark and Pat Zwiefel were known in Oregon and somewhat still over in Tillamook High School, still have the record of the 6th and 7th fastest 2-milers in all of America at the time that they were in high school. I mean, for 4 years, they were 6th and 7th. My husband's twin brother was 6th. My husband was 7th. My husband never won a cross-country race because his twin brother, not even his older brother, Mark's older by 2 minutes, his twin brother always beat him by 1/10 of a second. Always 1/10 of a second. So Mark's senior year, he tells the story, and he might even be sharing it over there. He tells the story because all his life he wanted to beat his twin brother. He'd walk around Tillamook High School or Tillamook town, and they'd say, are you the fast Zwiefel or the slow Zwiefel? And Mark would have to say, well, I guess I'm the slower one by 1/10 of a second. Wow. So all his life he's being compared to his twin brother. And his senior year of college, mind you, not high school, college, Pat goes on, full scholarship over at Cal Poly over in California somewhere, training with the 84 Olympic cross-country runner. Mark feels the call of ministry. He goes to Trinity Bible College, even though every huge school was wanting the Zwiefel twins because they were good. He felt God was calling to be a minister. Their senior year of college, they both graduate at the same time. His brother Pat and Mark go up on this hike, this beautiful hike somewhere in California, because they were over at his graduation, Pat's graduation at Cal Poly. And Pat stops and says, Mark, I've never told you this. Mark's like, what, Pat? They're breathing because it was a big hike. I've never told you this, and I'm going to tell you this now. Mark's like, okay. All through high school, you never knew this. Mark's like, okay, tell me. And he's like, all through high school, you know how we had to wake up at 5 a.m. to milk the cows because they had a big dairy farm? Mark's like, yeah. I set my alarm all 4 years in high school for 4 a.m. And I got a half-hour run before you. I worked out every day, half hour more than you, because I knew you were getting close to beating me, and I didn't want you to. And my husband about threw him off the cliff by that time. But, that's what makes extraordinary and ordinary different. My brother-in-law never told my husband this, but he practiced. He went above and beyond what he already was training for. He knew, hey, man, the pressure's tough. Listen, our kids are being fluctuated by all these images and media and scenes. I've got 4 daughters who I am always battling against. No, that you're not supposed to measure up what, Miley Cyrus is doing, or whoever it is on Disney Channel. Because, sometimes I let them watch them. I limit what they watch there. But we always talk about, listen, you're not supposed to be rude like Sam and iCarly, okay? You don't treat your friends like that. And and here's the other thing. Get to know what your kids are watching. Get to know it. Well, we're supposed to be in it, but not of it. Well, you're right, but you're going to miss it altogether if you don't know what your children are watching. If you don't know what's going on in their schools. Is there bullying going on in your schools with your kids? Because there are in mine. And I'm always refreshing my girls and the students at our church. Bullying is not right. That's how the devil loves to work. And are you supposed to love the devil? No, you got to battle the devil. So if this kid is bothering you, you need to love that kid. But the other ways the devil loves to come into the playground and bully our kids is through insecurity. It's to tell them your parents are divorced and you don't have a happy life like that person who has both parents in their house. Our kids are battling these things. What makes it different with the extraordinary and ordinary is going the extra mile. Go above and beyond what you're called to do. The expectations. There's no traffic jams on the 2nd mile. Do you realize that? If you go a little bit above and beyond, yeah, you might be stuck there for a while, but don't stop. Go above and beyond. Practical areas you can do this. Report to your head pastor what you're doing. Pastor, there were 30 kids in children's church. There were 10 kids in children's church last week. And this week, 2 weeks have passed now, there are 15. We've grown 5 kids. Let your senior pastor know what's going on. He might not care, but listen, you're going above and beyond. Maybe you're even challenging yourself. Request to do offertories. Man, nothing's cooler and funnier than having kids go up there and mess up when they're singing. And parents are like, oh, how cute. The senior pastor might be biting his nails because he would never allow it. But you know what? That shows our church. Our church is that we support our kids. Yeah, maybe she's not the best soloist, and maybe he's not the best dancer or rapper, but our kids know that we support them. Ask your pastor, Pastor, I would like on December 15th to do an offertory for, and maybe this is something you do already, but at my church, kids were never, right now in Anchorage, kids were never allowed to do offertories. I thought, why not? Oh, because we want the, and I said, Pastor, as your executive over the children's and youth, I would really like for you to pray about this. How encouraging it would be for our kids to know that our church supports them. Be careful how you word it. When the pastor heard that, let's have them do it. And they went a month later. I put it on the calendar because I didn't want to say something and not follow through. I said, so can we do it August 20th? Absolutely, we'll do August 20th. The kids went up there and they sang, Jesus, you're my superhero. And I think everyone's already heard that song. And they sang it over and over, and people loved it. That put a huge notch in our kids. Like, ooh, our church supports us. Guess what? They're on the offertory every month now. It's the coolest thing. Challenge. Go above and beyond. Your pastor might not expect that of you, but you know, I need to go above and beyond and let my kids know, our students know, we believe in them. Number 2, bring solutions, not problems. Bring solutions, not problems. My husband used to travel full-time for 2 years, and I was the chaplain at the school. And I would tell him, I tell him everything that was happening. And, problems here and problems that. Oh, by the way, there's a problem here with this. And he's like, Heidi, I'm about ready to go speak in about an hour. Can you please not tell me the problems that are going on? I thought, ooh, you're right. He said, have you thought about any solutions? No, not really. I was going through a hard time because I had 3 kids and my husband was gone every week for like 5 days. He might come home for 2 days. And it was really hard and trying for me and being very honest and vulnerable here. And I just remember giving him all the problems that were going on. He said, let's try to think of some solutions for these problems. I thank God for a godly man in my life, my husband, but he helped me rethink things. If you go to your pastor right before a board meeting or right before he's about ready to go preach and you tell him Billy broke his leg and now the parents are suing us, that's not the best place to do it. Right? Think about that and think about solutions before you go to your pastor and tell them about Billy's parents wanting to sue because of him getting on top of a table and jumping off and nobody was watching him, whatever the scenario might be. Just say, Pastor, I've already contacted Church Mutual. I already got our insurance and asked, what does this look like? He did sign a waiver form. Parents did sign the form saying that we're not liable. I mean, do the research. Give a solution or part of a solution, preferably the whole solution, to your pastor before you come with the problem. Because listen, anybody can find a problem, right? It takes a leader that goes above and beyond to give the solution to that problem, or to give half of the solution or 3/4 of it. Don't just come to him or her and bombard them with everything that's going wrong. Be somebody who does that. Anybody have a scenario that you want to share where you practiced that, where there was a problem and then you came with a solution? Anybody want to share something like that? Anybody ever came to your pastor without a solution, but with a problem?
The youth has taken our van, and we have this big group, and we got to get...
Yes.
And the van is gone.
Or the van's empty, or they can't find the van keys, or yes, whatever it is. I had a girl in Tacoma, Washington, that the children's choir was becoming really, really large, and it was cool because Sunday nights is when we did it. Sunday nights is when we had our Kids in Action, was what it was called. And again, my 2 jobs were to develop youth choirs and children's choirs. And with that, I had to do a huge summer tour with the youth, have them do specials, but I also had to do 2 huge type of productions with the kids. It's what was expected. That was my full-time job, alongside helping my husband in youth ministry too. I didn't get paid for that though. Anyway, the young girl that I had helping out with us, we gave her a stipend every month to help out because we were growing, and she just got to a point where we were getting too big. And she said, this is going crazy. We got way too many, and she said this in front of all the kids, by the way. We have way too many kids here, and like, we can't have kindergartners over here with 5th graders and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, wow, you just dumped all that right before we're going to start in front of all these kids? I said, we'll talk afterwards. And the whole time she was negative that whole night. And that whole night, the kids were too. Kids heard her. Kids were going crazy. They were acting normal. Usually we had control of it. And she was right. There was a problem. But she didn't give me a solution. And I wish she would have, because later on we decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do kindergartner. Now that we're large enough, 100+ kids in a kids choir can get a little challenging, right? So we decided, okay, you're right. You were so right. We do have a problem here, but what's the solution? So we talked about it, and we split them up, K through 2nd, da-da-da-da-da. And so we were able to have people work in those different areas. And then we came all together before the big show, all together once or twice before we did it, and it was perfect. It worked like clockwork. But the problem was there, but nobody was willing to help with a solution. So be careful when you go to your senior pastor about, we need another van. Pastor, we just don't have enough vans, or we need another sound system. Maybe you should go, before you go, look on Craigslist. Go call a larger church if you're a smaller church like I am, and call a larger church and say, hey, do you have this old sound system you'd be willing to just donate, or we could pay you? This is what I have in my budget. We're a church over here, and da-da-da-da. And you'd be surprised how churches want to help each other. We're not fighting against each other. And sometimes we're so afraid to go out of that bubble. Well, we got to buy it new. Craigslist is out there, and so are churches that are bigger and have maybe bigger and better resources. They're willing to help others. Before you go to your pastor about something that you want paid for, make sure you've done your due diligence. Maybe call some other Assembly of God people in the network and say, do you have any old curriculum or any old books that you are not using anymore? You know how many people did that with Mark and I in the large ministries that we were at? None. And you know what we would do with our stuff? Throw it away, because we didn't need it anymore. Now, we didn't think in our heads, maybe we should call the small churches. No, we didn't think that. But on the other hand, I wish the smaller churches would have said, maybe we should call the big church. I wonder what they're doing with their stuff. Because we would have gladly given it to them. Make sure to think that way. You're there to make your pastor look good, not just your ministry. And when Mark and I realized that it's not just about children's and choirs and youth ministries, we're here to make Pastor Fulton Buntain look like he was the smartest man to ever hire Mark and Heidi Zwiefel. I'm at that 140-person church right now, and guess what? 30 of those people are kids, so 140 of them are my youth. So do the math. We don't have a whole lot of adults in our church, but the children and the youth brackets are really growing. But I'm there to make him look good. I'm there to make every board member say, the moment that someday if I ever leave there, why is she leaving? We need to do something about that. That's the best hire we've ever done. You were smart in hiring her. That's what we're here for. Number 3, make no excuses. Make no excuses. You see, a bigger room, bigger toys, inflatables, and slides. There's a church in Anchorage, wonderful church. It's a seeker-friendly church. It's not Assembly of God at all. And it's an old fish planting fishery. I don't even know. I'm not from Alaska. But it was like a big building for fish. Yes. Yeah, cannery. There we go. Somebody bought it out, and they made it into a church. And it's the coolest church I've ever seen. And I've been to Life Center. I've been to all these. This church is awesome, too, where we're at right now. But here's the thing. A parent walks in, and bam, the first thing they see is this huge slide that goes from the 3rd floor all the way down. I mean, imagine a kid walking in there. I mean, they are sold on that. But listen, you don't need to make that the excuse of your ministry's not growing. Bigger rooms and bigger play toys and nicer sound equipment and padded chairs don't always bring it might bring them. They're not going to keep them. We have the biggest facilities ever in America right now with youth facilities and children's facilities. But listen, they're empty. They're not growing. You know why? Because we're making excuses. We need this for it to grow. No, you don't. You need to make this the biggest birthday party you can and bring the Bible into it. And that's what changes lives. Jesus does. Not a 3rd-story slide. It might help get them there, but it's not going to keep them there. 20 years from now, that kid's not... You might remember the slide, actually. That's a pretty cool thing. But that slide's not going to make him or her decide whether they should stick out their marriage, whether they should get abortion because they got pregnant at 16 or 17. That's not going to do it. The Word of God is, and the Bible. Don't make excuses. My children's ministry has been 5, and it's only going to stay at 5. What are you doing to make it grow? No, the youth ministry I started in Anchorage, and the children's ministry was at 5 people. And I thought, oh, Lord, remember I'm a ministry brat. I said, Lord, I know you called us to Alaska, and I know I want to be involved in youth ministry, and it had to be Assembly of God because my husband's a DYD. So there are not a lot of Assembly of God churches in Anchorage, Alaska, and that's where the network office is. But I know God called me to that church, to that one. And I've done all I can to go extra and above and beyond. And the youth ministry is thriving. The children's ministry is thriving. My kids would rather be at a children's ministry of 25, 30 kids any day of the week than the big church over in Vegas that had 400 kids in it. Any day of the week. Don't make excuses. You be who you are, and you show the love of Jesus. That's what's going to get them through the long run. That's number 3. Make no excuses. Bigger rooms, don't make it. More toys, doesn't do it. More workers, bigger budget. Jesus is what changes people. People who keep making excuses never run out of them. People who make excuses, they never run out. They can pull one out of like a tissue box anytime they want. People who make excuses keep asking others to accept them. Accept the excuses. And lastly, people who keep making excuses seldom improve themselves. If you're going to go above and beyond, you can't be a person who makes excuses. Get in your car. Go knock on the doors. Make your own flyers out of your own printer. Well, the church can't afford really cool, classy-looking ones. Then make your own. Remember, it's not the glitzy stuff that wins the kids. It's you. It's your consistency every Sunday, every Wednesday, being there to love those kids. There was a lady named Ida at the Assembly of God church I grew up in Toppenish, Washington. And her name was Ida. She had a big old bun, and she was probably 50. She was old school. And she had the songs that we sang in children's church, Happy Birthday, Baby Jesus. I don't know if anybody, Music Machine, all that stuff. She would write them on these big pieces of paper that she taped. So imagine 12 of these papers taped to make one big, we didn't have a chalkboard. It was a small church. And she'd write the letters really big. And my favorite part, I wish I would have brought one with me. I will never forget this woman. I was from ages 7 to 11 in that children's ministry, she had a wooden spoon, a wooden long spoon, and she'd sing, "Happy birthday, baby." She'd go over the words like that, little Bobby, beehive and everything. And we'd laugh at Ida, but I'll tell you what, she changed my life when it came to Sunday school. I still remember "Happy Birthday, Baby Jesus." I still remember those songs because she made no excuses. Well, we can't do that because we don't have a chalkboard or PowerPoint. No, she made her own PowerPoint, ghetto style, but it was there. It was there, and I remember those things. Don't make excuses. Every minute counts with our children, every minute. And if you have to be your own resource to make your own flyers or to pick your own kids, to pick those kids up, parent permission, of course, and drop them back off, sky is the limit. You'll always come up with excuses. Always. Don't be a person to make excuses. Number 4, finish your work without reminders. Finish your work without reminders. I was an assistant principal in Vegas for those 4 years, along as the chaplain. And you would be surprised. Some of these teachers that we had, strict in the classroom, but when I would ask them to speak at chapel, we used to do something fun called the featured the featured teacher speaker, because I wanted other people to hear the teachers if they were willing to do it. So the featured teacher speaker would come, and it was a mystery, and I had 3 hints to give them. I'd ask them prior, "Hey, give me 3 hints that you think some of the kids might know about you." "Okay, well, I had a horse," and so I give these 3 hints, and the kids are like, they were so excited for featured teacher speaker. And one woman, she was really at me wanting to do it. And I said, "Sure, we'll get you to do it. You'll be a featured teacher speaker on this Thursday and stuff. When we set the date, get your outline ready, your lesson. I want to see it up ahead of time to make sure we're on the same wavelength here." And she's like, "Okay, it looked good. Everything looked great." She gets up there, no music ready. And mind you, chapel is at 9 a.m., 8:45, so kids are tired when they walk in. And one of my biggest things was make sure music was pumping. Some of the junior hires were in there helping out from the classrooms to make it. She had nothing ready. She had no PowerPoint. Kids are visually stimulated. They like to see visuals. She had no music. She didn't even have her notes. She went off the whim. I had her notes. I was looking. I was like, that's not something she said she was going to speak about. I shouldn't have to remind her. She never spoke again. And she was hurt and offended because I gave her some constructive criticism, which is what I did with all my teachers. She was hurt and offended that I didn't think that she was prepared. And she wasn't. Finish your work without reminders. Your pastor should not have to tell you, fill up the gas because the children's ministry or youth ministry needs to use it after you. Or clean up your mess because there's another ministry coming in using this. Do your work with excellence. Go above and beyond. Do your work without reminders. "Oh, it's Sunday? Oh, snap, I got to get a lesson ready." No, you should have done that beforehand, right? Work hard. Finish your work without reminders. Number 5, bounce back from mistakes and corrections. Bounce back from mistakes and corrections. You guys heard earlier, if you were in there, the mistakes Mark and I made in the different times of ministry. And one in particular, it was during a chapel for me. This happened, I always like to, I always had visuals. I always had PowerPoint, movie, media going because I know my daughters like that. That means probably those other 400 kids like it too, right? So the majority of them do. So I always had little things ready. I always had fun little sermons. Like I talked about how Jesus is like bleach and how he can take the stains away. So I had bleach going in there and just fun little illustrations. You can be creative. You can ask God for creativity when it comes to children's ministry. It's so cool and he will give you those things. Well, one day I was talking about the differences between God and evil because the opposite of God is not the devil. There's no opposite to God. I was trying to explain that to the kids. But prior to doing that, I was telling the children, I was saying, it's like, okay, and I had a picture of a burger. It's like a burger versus broccoli. That's what it was. Well, which one are you going to want? And the kids are like, the burger! It was In-N-Out burger, and it was yummy bacon, melted cheese, and fat dripping. Burger! I was like, okay, next picture. How about, what would you want? Cake or carrot? Cake! And they're cheering, and what would you want? A pickle or something, Dr. Pepper, and all this stuff. And I didn't realize what I was doing, and you may not realize it either, because I thought I was doing a great illustration. Kids are excited, getting them pumped. I had a dad come up to me afterwards. And he said, Mrs. Zwiefel, I don't like the way you're teaching our kids. I said, help me understand why. That's a great way if somebody confronts you about something, okay? Don't be like, why? But just be like, help me understand why. Can you help me understand why? That's exactly how I said it. And he said, well, you are teaching kids that something as fat and disgusting as a hamburger is healthier than broccoli. And you are teaching kids that cake filled with frosting and other stuff is healthier than carrots. I thought, I was teaching that there's no opposite to Jesus. Where were you getting at? He's like, no. You don't realize what you're teaching these kids. They all love you. And they live off of every word you're saying in there. So my son comes home and he says, Dad, I don't want a carrot. I want cake. Mrs. Zwiefel said it's better. I thought, oh my goodness. Not only that, that young boy he's talking about, his own son, is diabetic. So he really has to watch what he eats. I had no idea what I thought I was just being creative and fun. I took that criticism and I apologized to that man. I said, you know what, would you help? And I even involved him in that. I said, would you help me, Mr. Spano? Help me, because you really have to look at this for your son because of his condition. Can you help me do some comparisons, but still get the excitement of the kid? Oh, I had a parent all of a sudden help me with my lessons because I could have said, well, that's not where I was going. How come you just listen to that part and not the rest, the real meat? Could have said that. But I asked him to help me understand, and he helped me understand. And maybe you've been in a scenario where you got offended and hurt because somebody criticized your method or your way of teaching in children's ministry. Bounce back up from those things, guys. Remember, every minute counts for those kids, and they can't afford a children's volunteer or a children's worker who's offended because a parent got upset with the way you talked about something. Put that aside. That's growing in maturity. Put that aside. Help me understand. Could you help me with better lessons or lessons that might be more applicable for healthy eating? That's exactly what I did. And guess what? That man became one of those parents at the end when I left. Mrs. Zwiefel, we're just going to miss you. And I thought you hated me because the whole cake and carrot thing, So it's amazing how God turns things around. I want to hurry up so we have like good 10 minutes for questions. Number 6, think ahead. Think ahead. Eliminate those surprises, unpleasant surprises. Some things you can't help. Some things that just happen, but do everything you can to plan ahead. These kids deserve it. If you are somebody who's been doing lessons the night before or the morning of, 2 hours before you go up there, and you're doing your Super Bowl, you've got to believe in yourself enough and in those kids that they deserve some preparation. They deserve some God time. Beyond just a curriculum, use your personal experiences in there. Get those illustrations. You might think that was a flop. I promise you there's going to be one kid who thought that was the coolest illustration. There usually is. Plan ahead. Try to avoid any unexpected surprises. Don't get blindsided, and don't blindside your pastor. So all of a sudden you got this great children's camp you're planning on going. Oh, I forgot the permission slips. Oh, well, there's a problem there. You better get those permission slips, because if Johnny gets hurt or Susie gets hurt and there's no permission slips, you just blindsided your pastor. You just might cost you your job too. Be prepared. Always think, go above and beyond. Always think extra. Number 7, keep growing. Never be satisfied. There are more specialists in children's ministry ever and in youth ministry ever. But those people that are writing books are still reading them. Those people that are doing curriculum and providing that for us are still reading themselves. Grow in the area that God has put you in, that calling. Find the latest book. Find a great teaching method. Go find an old school book. Imagine children's ministry 100 years ago. They didn't have all this cool stuff we did, but they were still attracting kids. Find out what they did back in the Stone Age. Sorry to say that if you're really old here. Find out what they did. Nobody's that old in here. But find out what they did back then. What attracted people to Jesus? Kids. He was just a normal guy. But what attracted them to him? His consistency and his love. He'd play with them. He'd sit down with them. He'd talk with them. Be careful how you play with your children. This is something that's not on there, but when I moved to Anchorage, there was this one young man, and he's still there. I love this guy. His name's Clarence. Clarence is somebody everybody loves. Big 6'4", 22-year-old, grew up in the church there, has 7 brothers and siblings in the church there. I mean, that's like half my youth ministry right there and half the children's ministry. But he's just been a helper. He plays every instrument, anointed by God. But Clarence did not know boundaries when it came to kids. He'd pick them up, and he'd swing them, and they'd go, Clarence, and they'd grab onto his, and he's tall, so they'd grab onto his leg, close to a little no-no zone area, and I'd be like, Are you going to talk to? I grew up remember I came from Vegas. I didn't grow up in Vegas. I came from Vegas where we watched everything. Everything. I could tell you stories how we got in trouble because we were counseling, even though I was in the room, but there was so many you just had to watch every little thing. So I'm thinking, oh man, that Clarence guy. In my mind, I'll be honest, I thought he's a molester. I thought that. Because I'm thinking, how long has he been a leader in here? What? Oh, man, there's something wrong with him. He should not be picked. He'd never been told he couldn't do that. I said, Pastor, has anybody ever talked to Clarence about how he picks up kids and how kids climb on top of him, boys and girls? And he's like, yeah, we talked to him. He's just a good kid. I said, Pastor, he's 22 years old. He's not a kid. And I said, do you mind if I talk to him? He goes, no, go ahead, because he was also a youth leader. I sat him down. I said, Clarence, how's it going? Good. We talked a little bit, good 4 minutes out of the way. And I said, hey, this is your final and last warning. Told him. I said, man, we gotta hold up. We have to help Pastor out. Pastor the last thing that he needs is somebody saying, oh, Clarence touched me in a bad way. I said, I know that's not your heart. Because I later started to know Clarence. I know he was not a child pedophile or anything like that. He's a good, solid young man. He's just never been told. He couldn't pick girls up and swing them around. Or the girls couldn't be grabbing on his leg and letting him drag them everywhere, near the no-no zone and stuff. He just never been told that. I said, this is your last and final warning, buddy. I said, I know you're not a bad person. I know it's not your heart. But we got to protect Pastor. We got to protect our church. I said, and some of these kids come from the ghettos of Alaska, of Anchorage, and they could easily say, Clarence touched me inappropriately. He's like, oh, I never thought about that. I said, think about it, because if you see it, you won't be a children's or a youth leader. He's like, okay, never done it again. So just if you have volunteers like that in a loving way, because you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your pastor, you're protecting the kids, you're protecting that individual. I was protecting Clarence too. So just a side note thing, keep growing, never get satisfied. Always grow. Find out the next book that you would like to read. If you think that you've arrived in children's ministry or youth ministry, think again, because it will change in 5 years. It'll change in 2 years. It always is changing. The method is not the person, not the message. That is always the same. That is always what is life-changing. That is what saved my mom at age 8, who was molested as a young girl, who was hurt very badly. But somebody had the same message. And guess what? That same message is changing young kids that are hurt, abused today. The method might change, but the message always stays the same. So be like, how's the way I can grow in this area? One book I'm reading, this is really good for you guys. If you'd like to write this down, it's called Revolutionary Parenting. Revolutionary Parenting. And you might be thinking, well, that's a parent book. But guess what? We don't just minister to kids, we minister to parents. And if we can be a resource to our parents, this is one of the areas of going above and beyond. If you can get a monthly or a bi-monthly newsletter of resources, even some stuff from this book saying, parents, here's something that will help you with raising your young person, your child for identity, for bullying, all these different areas that we can be, remember, you don't have to. It's not in your job description. But it's above and beyond. That's what they deserve. That's what we need to give them. Keep growing. Revolutionary Parenting by George Barna. That's the author. And he's got a lot of great stuff out there. But this is one Mark and I challenge each other. We've been in youth ministry and children's ministry for many years, but we are no experts ever will we claim that. We are, because it changes. Methods change in children's and youth. What was cool 6 years ago with Lizzie McGuire, she's kicked the bucket. Now we got Hannah Montana and iCarly and Sunny with a Chance. We got all these things that kids are watching that 6 years ago changed. And that's how we kind of have to be with our methods and bringing out these awesome different ways presenting our kids. We read a marriage book, my husband and I, every year. We'll pick out a marriage book. We read a parenting book, which is the one we're doing now, a communication book, how to communicate better. Sometimes they're not even Christian books. Matter of fact, some of the best stuff I've read lately have been from secular writers that are not Christians, because they're not warped around any other, they just want to get the message out, and they have very creative ways of doing it that we can take and make very Holy Spirit type. Spiritual growth books, relational books. Number 8, demonstrate initiative. Demonstrate initiative. Start something. Please don't be volunteers and pastors who say, we can't do it yet because we don't have all the resources. We can't do it yet because of this. We can't do it. Take the initiative. Remember who's on your side. Chris Tomlin, man, my hero. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? You've got the biggest crowd. It's one person named Jesus. Take the initiative in some things. I don't know how to do it. Well, that's where we got to work hard. Nothing comes just by coming. It has to be intentional. Take the initiative in some areas. Put on the calendar. Maybe you haven't done anything for a while. Just say, Pastor, with your permission, I'd like to do maybe 2 or 3 Christmas songs with our children's ministry. Dress them up like little funky ghetto, little Mary and Joseph people. Let them carry a fake doll with no hair, whatever it might take, or go above and beyond, but do something for your children's ministry. Take the initiative and maybe plan something for Christmas if you haven't already. Maybe a big Christmas birthday party for Jesus where they can invite their friends or something. Take the initiative. Plan something on the calendar. I remember in Vegas we had a grandparents' day, and it was huge. It was a chapel that it was like something I was supposed to plan for grandparents. I'm thinking, well, I don't know what to do. But I looked, I researched, I went on Google, and I put Christian School Grandparents' Day. I got like 10 different ideas, and it was the best Grandparents' Day ICA chapel had ever had. Not because I'm saying it, because teachers said it, grandparents said it. Out of the 400 kids there were 200 extra people there. So there were 600 grandparents and parents there at Grandparents' Day. And we played Name That Tune back in the 50s and 60s songs. Oh, we had some grandparents that were so excited about like Chuck Berry songs and, all these old school rock and roll, rock and roll. Leave It to Beaver, all these different type of tunes. I mean, I didn't know what to do, but I Googled it. God is all about Google in certain areas, okay? I'm really serious. It's really cool how you can use Google to help you out. It was a successful thing. Take the initiative. Just put it on the calendar and do it. Worst thing that can happen is that it bombs, but the kids know, hey, you believe in us enough. You even tell the kids, I believe in you enough. We're going to do something. Get those kids pumped. Let them know you believe in them. Put something on the calendar. Do a prayer walk around their schools. That was the coolest thing that we did too. We go to the public schools and little elementary schools, and we just do a prayer walk. And then we go play, of course. But we go around and pray, and we sing our cool songs, and then we say, okay, go play. And then they go play, and then we do a last thing around the school. We picked like different schools all around Vegas just to help pray for them. Something simple. You need permission slips, yes, but something simple. And it might only be 5 kids, 2 kids. Do it anyway. Let them know it's available. Take the initiative. 9, be loyal. Be loyal to your pastor. Be loyal to your volunteers. If a parent comes and says, your volunteer, Sam, is doing this and this and this, don't automatically take that parent's side. Be loyal to your workers who are there for you in and out. Now, it could be very well that that parent is telling the truth, but don't just, oh my God, are you serious? Sam did that? Oh my goodness, I'm going to talk to him right now. He won't be a volunteer anymore. Don't you worry about it. Don't do that. Say, you know what? What's your name? If it's a large ministry or whatever, I'll talk to Sam. We'll find out. We'll get together and I'll let you know. What's your number? Take the number down. I'll let you know in a week or 3 days or 2 days what happened. Sam and I will talk. But yeah, I'll take care of this. Thank you for letting me know. But don't blindside Sam, because it very well could have been nothing Sam did but an angry parent. Who knows? Be loyal. Pastor Buntain, who Mark and I talk and refer about him a lot because he was a guru. He'd been at the same church for 40-some years, and he grew it into a great, great thing. He'd say this, number 1, treat your employees like family. He said, I'll be loyal to you. I'm going to treat you like family. And he did. I don't know how many times we go to his house for dinners and parties. He treated us like family. Number 2, pay them well. If you're a senior pastor someday and you're going to have children, pastors and youth pastors, pay them well. Pay them well. This thing, it's just a ministry and a calling. Yes, but God does not expect us to live in poverty. He doesn't. If you can afford to pay your youth pastor well, or your children's pastor someday, and you're like, I wish that was happening right now with me. But listen, this is what the pastor said. Pay them well. Number 3, fire disloyalty. Pastor Buntain used to say us all the time, the moment you cannot support the leadership of this church is the day you need to have the integrity to turn in your resume. And I fought this being in Alaska, because it's not that I don't support my pastor. I'm there to help him. I know God called me there to help in whatever way I can, and he feels my support. And I told my husband, I said, this is something we've been talking about. I said, honey, I just feel like sometimes I'm hitting a brick wall. I try to bring ideas and stuff, and Mark said, Heidi, you just be loyal. You just do what he called you there to work with the youth and children. And if the youth and children ends up surpassing the whole, adding up to where it's larger than what the adult congregation is, you just keep doing what God called you to do. And so I said, but I don't want to be disloyal. He goes, you're not being disloyal. The moment when you're disloyal is when you find yourself talking about your senior pastor at the dinner table, before you go to bed. You think about it when you're on the throne, the potty. You're just nonstop thinking about how you wish things were different. I wish I could go up to him and tell him this. That's where you got to. And when you start talking to other people in the congregation, your volunteers, about how you're disgruntled about something the senior pastor did, then guess what? Do your children's ministry a favor. Do yourself a favor. With integrity, turn in your paper. Turn in your letter of resignation. And walk out of there keeping your mouth shut. Because it doesn't matter how many years you've been there, people will only remember how you leave. I've been there 10 years and it grew to... If you were disgruntled and upset with the pastor, all that pastor is going to remember, and the other people, is how you left. And you don't want to be known for somebody who left with problems with your pastor. And if you have left that way before, things change. God forgives, and you can start anew. And maybe some of you guys are doing that now. Last thing, enjoy your work. Enjoy your task. Enjoy the call. Enjoy the ministry. Enjoy, like I am, 14 years later, I'm getting kids Facebooking me and saying, Pastor Heidi, do you remember this? Remember when you kicked me out of kids choir? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, David Barta? You know what I'm talking about. I'm blown away how when you think you're not getting across to those kids, years pass and God, you were so in it. It's so worth it. It's so worth the volunteer time that you put into it. It really is. Because guess what? Something else other than Facebook's going to be around 10 years from now, and those kids that you just think nothing hits them, something hits them. And it's called the consistency of your presence. You realize that's a ministry, volunteers? Well, all I do is push play and do the PowerPoint. Doesn't matter. You have the ministry called presence. You are consistent. There's one lady in my youth ministry and children's ministry who holds the door for the kids and says, hey, how's it going? That's all she says. She doesn't go anything beyond that because she's kind of shy. Hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on? Hey. She just doesn't want anything else. And I said, doesn't matter. The moment she's not there, hey, where's Miss Deborah? She always holds the door for us. It's the ministry of presence, guys. Enjoy your work, enjoy your calling. Watch the benefits of it later. It's so rewarding that any pay raise could give you, it's rewarding. Let's pray, and we'll take maybe 2 minutes if you have a question that's been burning in you and you'd like to ask. God, we just thank you. I thank you so much for the people that are in this room. God, I have 4 daughters, and they could very well be a part of their ministry someday if we were called out of Alaska. Lord, I know that you strategically put people where they're supposed to be. I pray if there's one inkling of anybody in here saying, I was about ready to give up, I'm only doing it for 4 months. I'm checking it out. I'm trying it out. Kids don't deserve to be tried out. They deserve every minute that we can give them. And God, I pray that they would grab onto that passion even when the devil comes against them, even when they feel like they're losers and getting nowhere and attendance is going down. God, replenish that fire that once was there when they said, I'm going to change the world with children's ministry. I thank you for that, Lord. I thank you for their loyalty and their hearts in this place. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the 2010 Fusion Podcast. For more information on the Oregon Ministry Network and our events, please visit our website at oregonag.org.